Hi, Layla. How's it going?
Hello.
Audio sounding good. Video's looking good. Do we want to test out screen capture?
How's that working? Let me
Yeah, that
just
looks great. And you have a little
okay.
hovering thumbnail of yourself above the screen capture there.
Okay, that's cool. Real quick, if I did this and then I went like that.
If you show them a lot of
Can you hear it?
examples and give them
Yeah,
practice,
yeah,
they'll
yep.
learn.
I can hear it.
Perfect. Okay. Yeah. I think that's all I needed to check. Cool.
Perfect. We're about 5 minutes out from the start.
Very cool.
For this demo, oh, for this
Then we have about a minute until start.
Thank you for the reminder. Hello, everyone. I see that many people are starting to join now. I'll give maybe another minute before we all can get started with a little introductions and an icebreaker while we wait for more people to join, hopefully. Welcome. Good morning. Good morning. Please feel free to use the Q&A box, question and answer box, to ask any questions or raise your hand. I see someone might be raising their hand. I'm not sure. Give it one more moment. Looks like that number of participants are increasing. So I'll just wait a moment. While you wait, I'm sharing my screen here. There's a QR code that will give you access to these slides that I have. And also there's a bit.ly link. So bit.ly/AI for all 2024 will give you access to the slides. All right, well, we have quite a few people here already, and it's already 2 minutes past, so I will get started with the small icebreaker. I mean, this session is all about AI. So while I introduce myself, I would love to know where people are coming from. I do know that in this format, people do not have access to a chat, but if you throw it in your information to the Q&A, I would be able to kind of shout out the different boroughs that are in the house, the different grade bands, the different types of roles that we have here going on. We have Staten Island in the house. We have Brooklyn in the house. My name is Lila. I was a teacher in the classroom for about 10 years. I taught middle school and high school science, math, and computer science. And now I work at Central doing things related to secondary school computer science. And now because AI is a big thing, I have jumped into that role as well. But I was a teacher for 10 years, and now my job is training you. We have technology teachers here, Brooklyn, library media teachers here, MS 210. I actually went to that middle school. Queens Village, Martin Van Buren. 5th grade teacher. We got the Bronx in the house, pre-K, middle school, high school, math teacher. We have it all here. Y'all, there's 725 people on the call. So we have lots of different roles. I see guidance counselor. I see health teacher, dean, OT, Bronx, para. We have some assistant principals here. We have some principals here, special ed in the house, all special education teachers who specialize in servicing different communities. Hillcrest High School, my sister went there. I'm just kind of scrolling down, reading out things. D75 in the house. All right, awesome. So we have like a bunch of people here. So this is going to be kind of like intro to AI, AI literacy, some cool things that might surprise you, and some awesome tools to get you started maybe in having some conversations about AI, whether it be related to your subject or just related to life in school. So just to kind of like define what we are all doing today, we're going to define what AI is, artificial intelligence and machine learning. We're going to understand how AI uses data to learn. We're going to look at some examples briefly, and we're also going to touch on the importance of AI literacy and responsible AI use. So we'll use some more of this time in the chat. Again, you all can't see what I can see, but I'll shout out some answers, and maybe if you would like to raise your hand. I'm not sure if there's an unmute option. So for example, let's try this out. Maria Martinez, your hand is up. Do you have an option to unmute and answer the question? No? Yes. All right, so those who have your hand up, if you can throw your answer in the Q&A box, I'll get back to them once we have a quick break. But in this platform then, I want everyone to kind of brainstorm. What are their first thoughts when someone asks you, what is AI? Like one of your students come in like, you know, I saw AI this, AI that. What is AI? Like, what do you think it is? I see a lot of no idea, automated programs, so like automated calls that you get from randoms on your phone. Payment kiosks uses AI. Someone says a computer that can teach, that you can teach. What it stands for, artificial intelligence. I see ChatGPT. I see assistive technology, robots. The link to the slides are, you see this black box on my screen. It says link to slides is bit.ly/AI for all 2024. That is the short link, and they're on all of the little slides. Sorry, little slides. All of the slides you'll see, it appears everywhere. But yes. So someone is pasting it in the chat, but no one can really see the chat, just reminding everyone. All right, I see intelligence without humans. I see making predictions, the future, robotics, artificial brain. I see the word scary, high-powered tutor. All these things are true. Computer-generated responses. When a computer uses algorithms to learn, smart machines, smart computers, Siri, personal assistants, machines taking over, end of a working man, all these things. All these things are, some of them are fears, certainly. Some of them are truths, right? And the interesting thing about AI is that it's kind of hard to define because it is all of these things. So we kind of, we're currently going with the general all-encompassing definition as shown here in this slide. Artificial intelligence, it's a branch of computer science because it does use computer programming that focuses on using data specifically to build programs that can do human-like things. So that can simulate human intelligences. So on the right here, I have like a graphic that kind of reminds me of Garner's multiple intelligences, but this idea that someone can be musically intelligent or visually intelligent, interpersonally intelligent, nature, environment, logic, linguistic, so on and so forth. There's even emotional intelligence, right? So there's different types of intelligences that we can name that essentially what in artificial intelligence we try to do is simulate those types of behaviors. A couple people, again, have their hands up. I am trying to figure out if I can unmute you, but I do not think I can. Yes, so if you do have your hand up, please make sure to write your answer in the chat. I'll be going in periodically and answering questions out loud that I see pop in the chat. I also have my email at the end. You can always ask questions with email. And if your questions are about the slide deck, right here on the lower part of my slides, there's a bit.ly link. You can type that into your browser, bit.ly/AI for all 2024, and it will take you right to these slides. All right, so we talked a little bit, we just defined AI, right, as using data to learn, but like what data, right? So there's various different types of data that we can think of. If we came up with or use a definition for data that is, again, all-encompassing in this context, we can say that data is just like any information in any format that can be interpreted. Patterns can be uncovered and relationships can be uncovered. And those patterns and relationships can help machines and people make decisions, right? So what kind of data? We have numbers, facts, observations, measurements, accounts, narratives, perspectives. On a scale of 1 to 10, how happy are you today? That's a type of data, right? Like creating questions to get the data that you want to answer your questions that you have is actually a skill within itself. Data professionals develop skills specifically on what to ask and how to ask these questions so that they can acquire the very specific data they need to either make predictions about something, make a decision about something. As teachers and as educational professionals, we understand how to use data to drive our instruction, right? We assess our students in multiple ways, and we use that information to kind of like move forward on the next step so that we're always meeting our students' needs at the same time, continuing with the things and the experiences that they are to be exposed to. So sorry. Okay, again, the slides. The link is up here on the top of this slide. There are notes on some of these slides in the speaker notes that have further reading and resources for you that you can check out later. So how do machines use this data to learn? Well, generally in computer science, we know that we can use code to create algorithms, right? And generally algorithms are a set of rules that can perform a very specific task. Same thing goes, let's say, for math. An algorithm performs a specific task. In science, right? The steps, the procedure of a scientific experiment to recreate an experiment. It's specific steps in a specific order in a specific language that you can understand so that you can create it. Specifically, though, if we're looking at algorithms that do this whole learning thing with data, we're talking about machine learning algorithms. They specifically look at data, identify any patterns they might see. Those patterns are what they learn. So they use that knowledge of those patterns that it saves to make predictions on something new, right? If we were at the end of the school year and we wanted to analyze our data of performance in these specific type of benchmark assessments over the years, we can analyze that data with line charts. We can say, oh yeah, it's increasing. These scores are increasing based on this variable or that, but those things are the patterns that we're learning. these machine learning algorithms can do those things automatically and fine tune themselves so that they can be better at predicting what to do next based on that information with data. Just looking at the chat, I see a lot of people asking questions about data bias. I see a lot of people talking about human beings being the ones that puts the data in these machine learning algorithms. And I agree, right? That can be a scary thought. However, in my opinion, in education, people write textbooks and people develop curriculum and communities decide what should be taught in public schools or parents and so on and so forth, right? So people are still deciding how to teach, let's say, and what to teach the next generation. The same thing goes for these machine learning algorithms. People are deciding what data is important for this machine learning algorithm to kind of like learn the patterns of, so that they can make a specific decision for us that, let's say, would benefit whatever it is. If we're a business, we want to make money. If we're teachers, we want our students to do better, so on and so forth. So these machine learning algorithms, they learn as a part of what we call the machine learning process. Sometimes you will hear AI and machine learning kind of like used in tandem as if they were like synonymous. However, machine learning is just a small part of artificial intelligence, specifically the part that's responsible for developing these learning algorithms. All the other stuff that you can see, let's say a robot, the robotics part, the machinery, that's a different branch of AI. You know, the apps that we use, that, you know, the buttons we press and the experience we have as users, that's a different part of AI. This machine learning part is specifically like, what programs can we write that can take in data, learn these patterns, and then tell people what to do? And that's this machine learning. So generally, again, it's a branch that focuses on developing those algorithms, optimizing those algorithms so they can be better with more data and with more time. Again, overgeneralizing, we can think about this process in 3 steps. There's data. We're going to call this training data, because this training data has to be very specific. If we want the machine learning algorithm to learn how to distinguish between cats and dogs, for example, if we gave it images, the training data that we give it will be images, right? Cats, dogs, maybe something else if we want to try to confuse it, so on. So once we have that training data prepared and we acquire that data, we gather that data somehow in an ethical way, then we choose what parts of that data make sense. That is the training data. We give it to a learning algorithm. Now, lots and lots of data has to be given to an algorithm for it to really learn the nuances behind some of these patterns. And it's the same that goes with humans, right? And we'll see in a moment how it's explained kind of like parallel to the way a human learns. But, you know, let's think about how much practice do we give our students in reading, in writing, in math, right? Constant practice, constant practice. That's equivalent to giving a machine learning algorithm thousands and thousands and thousands of data points for it to actually learn patterns to predict something. Last but not least, once it learns those patterns, you now take something completely new data that's not part of this training data. So something that the algorithm has never seen before, and you assess how it does. Make a prediction. Is this a cat? Is this a dog? Was it correct? Wasn't it correct? And why? Then they iterate, right? Trying to figure out what went wrong, what went well, continue, so on and so forth. And now we're here at the level that we're at with all the AI that we have that are actually pretty good, because there has been years and years and years of iteration in this process, and also different developments in like gathering data and the machine learning algorithm tuning, right? So before we start maybe like reacting to, well, how would you kind of describe machine learning? I want to introduce you to this video. It's awesome. It has a lot of different elements to it. This is a computer scientist that explains machine learning in 5 different levels. We're going to be focusing on only the level of a child because I feel like that is kind of ubiquitous for everyone when we're kind of coming into this topic of machine learning and learning it for the first time. But on your own time, please watch this whole video. It's brilliant. I'm going to press play. While this is playing, I am going to look through the questions to see if there are questions I can elevate after this is done.
We have a review.
Hi,
Hi,
I'm Hillary. What's your name?
I'm Bryn.
Do you know what machine learning means? Have you heard that before?
No.
So machine learning is a way that we teach computers to learn things about the world by looking at patterns and looking at examples of things. So can I show you an example of how a machine might learn something?
Sure.
So is this a dog or a cat?
It's a dog.
And is this one?
A cat.
And what makes a dog and a cat a cat?
Well, dogs are very playful, I think, more than cats. Cats lick themselves more than dogs, I think.
True. Do you think if we look at these pictures, do you think maybe we could say, well, they both have pointy ears, but the dogs have a different kind of body and the cats like to stand up a little different? Do you think that makes sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. What about this one?
A dog. A cat. I think a cat because it's more skinny and also its legs are like really tall and its ears are a little pointy.
This one's a jackal, and it's actually a kind of dog, but you made a good guess. That's what machines do too. They make guesses. Is this a cat or a dog?
None.
None. What is it?
It's humans.
And how did you know that it's not a cat or a dog?
Because cats and dogs, because they walk on their paws and their ears are like right here, not right here, and they don't wear watches.
And so you did something pretty amazing there because we asked the question, is it a cat or a dog? And you said, I disagree with your question. It's a human. So machine learning is when we teach machines to make guesses about what things are based on looking at a lot of different examples. And I build products that use machine learning to learn about the world and make guesses about things in the world. When we try to teach machines to recognize things like cats and dogs, it takes a lot of examples. So we have to show them tens of thousands or even millions of examples before they can get even close to as good at it as you are. Do you have tests in school?
Yeah, I have after every unit, we have a review and then we have a test.
So are those like the practice problems you do before the test?
Well, just like everything that's going to be on the test is on the review.
Which means that in the test, you're not seeing any problems that you don't know how to solve, as long as you did all your practice, right?
Yeah.
So machines work the same way. If you show them a lot of examples and give them practice, they'll learn how to guess. And then when you give them the test, they should be able to do that. So we looked at 8 pictures and you were able to answer really quickly. But what would you do if I gave you 10 million examples? Would you be able to do that so quickly?
No.
So one of the differences between people and machines is that people might be a little better at this, but can't look at 10 million different things. So now that we've been talking about machine learning, is this something you want to learn how to do?
Kind of, because I kind of want to become a spy, and we used to do coding, so I may be kind of good at it.
And machine.
All right. So I know a colleague of mine specifically likes that ending right there because the little girl talked about, we did coding in school, so maybe I could do it, right? So if you're introducing computer science already, maybe that is actually opening the door. So we don't have a chat, but I would love to see, did anything surprise you about that explanation? Anything you haven't seen before? Or anything you found interesting? And I'll try to call out some interesting things as I see them pop up in the question and answer. But yeah. And I see a lot, I've been answering some questions, so I hope everyone's able to see the ones that I did answer while the video was playing. But yeah, so a lot of people appreciate how simple it was, how clear it was. So someone's asking, what coding program is AI? So it can be any coding program, right? If it learns patterns in data, it can be considered, it's definitely machine learning, and it may be considered artificial intelligence depending on maybe like a certain characteristics that are actually still a little ambiguous right now in the game. For example, I have code-alongs that I can do with middle school students that use AI, for example, right in the classroom. Yeah, so I see a lot of clear explanations, little girls really expressive. Is there a way to enforce AI ethics? Absolutely, we're gonna touch on that. There's a new framework, and there's actually a session today about it, if I can find it. Yes, at 1:30, it's called the Kapoor Foundation's Responsible AI and Tech Justice for K-12. I'm going to introduce that framework, but in that session, they're going to go into the framework and how you can use it to teach AI through the lens of ethics. So I love that. So machine learning algorithms need specific information. This specific information, for example, in this example was cats and dogs. But like, you know, in the video, she asked the little girl, she showed a picture of humans, and the girl was like, what do you mean? That's not a cat or a dog. That's a human. The computer will not be able to do that unless you gave it a bunch of pictures of humans. Now, all of a sudden, it can tell between cats, dogs, and maybe humans, right? But I put this image here because it's funny. It's a dog, but it's wearing like a cat, maybe costume. Would the AI be able to tell if it's a cat or a dog, right? We don't know. This kind of exposes maybe limitations of AI. It also exposes, and I see comments in the chat about how, you know, the data that you choose really matters, and also how specific these machine learning models have to be, right? Because an AI system is comprised of many of these machine learning models, right? Your Siri, for example, can recognize images. That's one. A few of them, a few models that work together on image recognition. Then there's large language models that work on text and speech. Then there's like location, GPS, so on and so forth. So depending on what you're trying to get this machine learning model to learn will dictate what type of data you're going to use. And then based on that, you want to get your data even more specific so that the model can be even more accurate. Okay, so another example. This one's pretty awesome, but this one is actually going to open up the conversation about ethics.
For this demo, we've created a simple interface, and with some clever prompting under the hood, we can really leverage Gemini's math, reasoning, and multimodal capabilities to learn a subject like physics.
With Gemini, you can upload a photo of handwritten answers on a worksheet.
Not only can Gemini solve these problems, but this is the amazing part. It can read the answers and understand what was right and what was wrong, and explain the concepts that need more clarification. So Gemini identified some mistakes with problems 1 and 3 here.
Let's take a look at 3.
Here, Gemini identifies that the formula was correct, but there was a mistake in calculating height. We can ask Gemini to explain in more details why the height is 50 meters instead of 6.
I can ask Gemini to explain further.
Here, Gemini explains the step-by-step details to solving the problem. Because of Gemini's ability to understand nuanced information and answer questions relating to complicated topics, it can give you a customized explanation of the subject you're trying to learn. And lastly, if you want to learn more, you can just ask.
So I studied physics in college and I taught physics a little bit at the beginning of my career. And it was pretty hard. But if I had this, I don't know. Things would have been a lot different. So just to put this in context, this specific demo was created specifically for the video. So this interface is not available, but Gemini is available for people to use. It's actually replacing Bard, if you ever heard of Google Bard. These are multimodal AI technologies, meaning you can speech, video, text, maybe weather, maybe has access to the internet. That's multiple types of data that it's able to recognize, therefore multiple types, of learning models. Sorry, I see a bunch of hands up, but I am looking at the chat and I don't have a way of kind of like saying, hey, yeah, unmute. So I see a lot of questions around fear among AI. And I think my perspective on it specifically is like, artificial intelligence here is like the introduction of the personal computer inside everyone's home and classroom. Like it was an amazing technology that eventually now everyone has and knows how to use. And those who were experiencing discomfort with learning something new did feel fear and did feel like all of these feelings that things are changing. Oh my goodness, I don't know how to use this thing. And I think that as educators, we're lifelong learners and that's part of our responsibility. And for me, what mitigates my fear of like the Terminator is just keeping ahead of that, keeping abreast of all the newest things and what to watch out for and what I can actually use because they actually developed it pretty good. Like, there's a lot of legislation happening in AI that you can pay attention to as well. I saw a lot of things in the chat about there's a lot of sites that are blocked because of this new process that we have in the DOE for cybersecurity. That is also a result of artificial intelligence becoming so much more accessible and people generally not really knowing how to use it. I saw a lot of things in the chat about students using ChatGPT for plagiarism, right? That kind of reminds me of when my mom was in college. I think I was around like 10 or 11, and I would go to her to the college and she would read all these books and highlight everything. When I went to college, I just Googled everything and copied and pasted, changed some words around, I developed those types of skills to be better at research, for example, whereas my mother had to develop other skills. I saw her develop other skills for her type of research. For me, personally, it's the same idea. It's like, how can we use ChatGPT as a tool in lesson planning, for example, so I don't have to start from scratch and my brain is like, right? I have kind of like a template to use for. And because I'm the expert, I'll read it. And some of it, I'm like, you're wrong. I'm changing this. This makes no sense, right? But for a student who's copy and pasting off of ChatGPT, they're not doing that checks and balance. So I would love to say, yeah, like there's this great curriculum that like shows you how to not use ChatGPT to cheat, but there really isn't because it's a perspective, at least not yet. I mean, people come out with some amazing things all the time. Still looking at some reactions. I'm gonna type answers. I'm just looking at the time because I do wanna introduce this, which is the Kapor Center's Responsible AI Guide and Tech Justice Guide. They recently developed it. They specifically have questioning techniques and examples that teachers can actually use in conversations right away with students, depending on like what they're talking about, right? So specifically, it's like understanding that AI is going to be part of our world. So how do we look at AI with a critical lens, right? How do we critically evaluate it? According to the Kapor Center, their definition of responsible AI, which is the AI that should exist out there, is AI that considers racial and social injustices and social justice due to bias that we have in our data. Anything that does come up, challenging it, having avenues and pathways to easily address it, iterate it, these algorithms. You know, someone spoke about like, who makes these decisions on what data to use, right? Well, those questions, those answers should be transparent. Transparency is a big theme in AI and companies. The government is now requiring companies to be transparent because originally, or not originally, just AI is very helpful because they can unlock these patterns that are really abstract and might be hard for humans to. But then that also means that humans can't really describe how this AI is making that decision. That right there opens up an ethical conversation. Like, well, I understand the concept of efficiency, but if I can't really explain why, you know, because of this data, this algorithm is telling me that I can't give you a loan, then how can I prove it's not biased? These are some examples of their core components to look for when you're talking about AI ever in your classroom with a critical lens, right? How was the AI created? What is the relationship between the technology and the humans, right? Like Instagram is awesome, but now we see there's a bunch of like mental health issues coming up and we're like, should probably look at that now. It's really awesome, maybe a little too awesome, you know, some things are a little too awesome. Number 3, explore the impacts and implications on society, right? Especially for me, in my opinion, once mental health is being affected, you have an entire generation that is going to pass down habits, behaviors, traumas that are associated with these things that it's going to impact society. Your personal usage. Is it hurting you? Is it helping you, right? Is this AI making you better? Or are you using it as a crutch, for example? The critical lens for students to kind of intuitively ask, like, yeah, but where was that data collected? Who was given those surveys? You know, or how'd you get those numbers, right? Like, I feel like so many times we see graphs and charts on TV and we're like, wow, that's amazing research. But I rarely hear people ever saying like, wait, is that really true? How did they get their data, right? Well, that's something that we should develop. And that's also part of this responsible AI. And then just kind of like having this motivation and perspective that like, if we do see something wrong with it, it is our responsibility to address it as people in the community, as people who hold companies accountable, and as consumers, like we're paying for this stuff. So, for example, Google Gemini, what we just saw. Some questions that might come to mind that would be aligned to this core framework are like, what benefits financially is Google getting from teachers using it and parents using it in this way? Like, what are they gaining, right? What are the stakeholders involved here? We're talking about parents, teachers, students, everyone else. How is the user data being collected and stored in order to power this AI to begin with? Like, how does it even know how to distinguish the handwriting of my student? How do they make it better? What data do they use? Do they decide to take out data that's inconvenient for them? Or do they include all the data and consider all the data and fine tune things? And how might this tool kind of like, it says automate bias, but I believe I meant perpetuate bias. So any biases that may be in the data, how does this tool like continue them rather than, you know, break the cycle or stop them or bring them to awareness? So this brings us to AI literacy. Everything that we've just described, all those kind of like skills to ask those questions, to look at this AI in a certain way, that is AI literacy, right? Already we got like a big foundation. We know that it uses data and machine learning algorithms, and this data is picked by humans, and gathered by humans, so it can be biased. So we have to ask a bunch of questions, honestly, right? But it doesn't only include a critical lens. It includes also understanding, why is this AI being applied in this way? How is it okay for it to be applied in this way? You know, there's a lot of AI being applied to help doctors with medical diagnosis, to help communities with giving loans to families for homes, with deciding whether or not a person convicted of a crime should be let free early on probation, so on and so forth. Like hiring. Oh my goodness. Hiring is a big algorithm. Most companies use algorithms for that. Making informed decisions once we know all these things. That's what AI literacy gives us. I want to use this app. I'm going to limit my use of this app. I'm only going to use this app in this way. Those things are really healthy. Questioning design and implementation can also help us have a big hand in making AI better for the communities rather than for the people up top. And awareness of the benefits and challenges in diverse perspectives will always bring up things that people who were not exposed to certain lifestyles would ever think of. So diversity is so important, and accountability is so important. And the way, in my opinion, AI should be introduced that way, kind of like ingrained in that with those questioning techniques. I mean, I think I'm probably preaching to the choir here, because we understand that there's a lot of uses for AI, but there's like 12 million jobs in AI by next year, and 85 million jobs that exist now will change because of AI. Media, they conflate AI. They have a lot of these like catchy titles, and you know, they grab onto fear a lot because that grabs onto people's attentions. So that like introduces a lot of misconceptions. A lot of people use AI all the time and they don't even know it. It is ingrained in our society already. So people who normally are like, oh, I'm afraid it's going to turn into like an AI world. Like my answer is usually like, it already is. So I feel like it's super our responsibility as educators to jump on this in every subject, in every platform, because AI is ubiquitous in that way. I'm sorry. And communities who just don't have access to this type of information. Like they need to know this too, right? Because we know that if companies know that they don't know it, they will be taken advantage of. Excuse me, sorry about that. I'm just going to my next slide. Yeah, so some key takeaways from lots of things I said today. AI requires data and learning algorithms to uncover patterns to make predictions about new data it hasn't seen. Therefore, AI literacy is essential to ensure that AI is being used ethically. And all students, all of them, and all members of the community should have access to these experiences and this information, because it is everywhere, right? Like those robocalls. I know that like my great grandma keeps getting hit with them and she keeps getting fooled. That's a big issue for some people. There are things that are happening with AI that we don't even imagine. And it's really cool to use this as an opportunity to explore that with your students. So any next steps that you want to do, I would suggest you explore and implement some lesson plans. Again, the link to these slides is up here at this bit.ly, and the links embedded in these slides. This leads you to a resource guide that was created by myself and a colleague that is specific sections by grade band, articles for teachers, the responsible AI framework for Kapor. The link is right here. You can read the extensive PDF. You can also just Google it. It's taking a while to load. There we go. And yeah, be on the lookout for more AI literacy opportunities. I'm going to be throwing things on Canvas on a regular basis. And if you have any questions or need a thought partner on your own lesson plans, please feel free to email me. I have open times where I meet with teachers during their preps or lunch, and we can hang out and have a conversation. So yeah, there is 1 minute left. I'm not sure if they're going to close out this Zoom, but I'm going to take a look at all these questions. Hopefully I can get back to people, but if you do have a question that I didn't answer, please email me and I will definitely answer you. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today, and I hope to see you at future workshops. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Enjoy the rest of the conference.